If you were to ask me what my favourite game is, I wouldn't say Destiny 2. This game is a prison and should be avoided like the plague. Just never come in contact with it, like ever. Jokes aside, I've been playing Destiny 2 since the beta way back in 2017 when we first got to run the Inverted Spire, but my story with Destiny actually starts before that. Am I a day one Destiny player? No. I got into the game around about when The Taken King came out, and whilst I don't remember much of it because I was 11, damn, Taken King is 10 years ago. What I do remember was instantly falling in love with it because it was the fun shooty alien game. Now, 10 years down the line, a fair few $100s down the gutter, I am very responsible with my money, and just over 1,000 hours poured into my hunter. Yes, I'm a hunter main, I'm very sorry. What have I learned about the game? How and why has the game had a grip on me for 10 years? It's a vast mixture of different things, so let's just jump right in because we've got quite a lot to talk about. I'll start with something pretty simple, and that's the combat element of the game. The core mechanic that makes Destiny, well, Destiny. The gunplay is second to none, with each weapon feeling even more unique than the last. This is a pretty obvious statement for the exotics because they all have their own abilities, like Ace having Memento Mori and Risk Runner having Arc Conductor. But since normal legendary weapons roll with different perks from a pretty big list of perks, no two guns are the same. Sure, their model is the same, feels the exact same to shoot, and they're called the exact same thing, but you'll get perks like Chill Clip where you'll freeze an enemy if you do sustained damage to them. No two guns are the same, unless they're curated weapons like the seasonal ones you get from leveling up Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. And that's what makes the gunplay fun. The looter part of Looter Shooter is very heavily emphasized as each weapon and armor piece rolls different perks and stats. I could have a helmet with 10 mobility or I could have a helmet with 23 mobility depending on my luck. Usually it's 10 mobility because this game hates me. Going back to exotics, not only do the weapons have unique abilities, but the exotic armor pieces tend to amplify subclass abilities too. Either that or they just generally boost damage or keep you alive for longer. Take the build I'm using for example. I'm using the Gifted Conviction chestplate, which makes my arc ability spit out arc nades upon activation, meaning I basically become a crowd control machine because my main goal is to blow up.
My main goal!
This makes clearing Nightfalls a breeze because everything dies very, very fast, turning me into a practically unstoppable force. This is basically just a much nerdy, wordier way of me saying that I'm a massive virgin who takes the game way too seriously because I run overpowered builds. That's one of the gripes I have with this game other than Pete Parsons and sunsetting. I don't know whether it's because I've been playing the game for so long that I find it stupidly easy, or whether it's my build making it so that clearing Nightfalls is like prime Mike Tyson versus a literal child, but power scaling is a bit all over the place. Don't get me wrong, there are difficult things in this game. The day one raids are an absolute pain in the arse because of the competition modifiers. But if I were to go back to them now, I think I could probably use my super twice, maybe thrice, and the raid would be over because we're just too strong. Look at Valve for example. Valve the Disciple was pretty challenging when it first came out because A, people didn't really know what they were supposed to do, and B, because the damage windows were pretty high, but now that we have weapons like Still Hunt that act like a second Nighthawk shot that will destroy the boss's health bar, like the fat kid destroying the cake in Matilda. We are simply too strong to be doing normal activities like advanced Nightfalls, which is why I encourage people to use LFG to run Grandmasters because whilst yes, it's a bit more of a slug due to the difficulty and, communication issues, you'll find yourself having more fun than running the strike mindlessly and acting on autopilot. Now, what I usually found in Nightfalls? Enemies. Lots and lots of enemies. I didn't have a better segue into this section, but let's talk about all of the enemies. As of recording this video, there are a total of 7 enemy factions. Cabal, Fallen, Hive, Scorn, Taken, Vex, and the most recent faction, the Dread. Most of these factions have similar enemies. You've got the Squishy, the slightly less squishy, the Sniper, the Heavy, and the Leader. Are some of these factions just reskins of other factions? Yes and no. Lore-wise, yes, because the Scorn, Taken, and Dread all come from a mix of all of the other factions, but ability-wise, they're all a bit different. Take the Taken Phalanx, for example. That was more difficult than I intended it to be. A regular Cabal Phalanx is just a big guy with a shield, but the Taken Phalanx also has a shield that can knock you back. Whoa, it's so different. The amount of times I've died to this bullshit over the years is insane. I wish there was a stat that showed you the exact number of times you died to a Phalanx knockback, because at this point it's gotta be in the hundreds. Anyway, the enemies are super cool and the lore behind them is awesome. I won't go into it because we would be here for literal years rather than days, but if you want to find out more about the enemy factions, then go and check out Byf's channel because he is the lore master. If I had to choose my favourite boss from over the years, it would be legit Riven from Last Wish. The main mechanic of shooting the eyes and all of that stuff was just so cool, and it is an iconic boss. So much that they reference it in the Witch Queen campaign when Savathun makes you fight her. The aftermath of the fight is super cool too. I'll never forget my first time doing Queen's Walk and shitting myself because I thought we were too slow. Speaking of raids, they're all great, apart maybe Root of Nightmares, because in terms of difficulty, that's quite literally baby's first raid, even though it's considered end-game content. Obviously, raids were in the original Destiny, starting with Vault of Glass, but Destiny 2 took them to a whole new level. Unfortunately, I never got to do any of the Leviathan raids or Scourge of the Past before they were sunset, but from what I've seen, they all looked pretty enjoyable, except maybe Spire of Stars because that was just shoot enemy and wait. The raid. It's a shame they got sunset, but I suppose that's the nature of live service games at the end of the day. They need the space to grow and expand, and in the case of Bungie with Destiny, they'll happily delete older content to make way for new content. I wish this didn't have to happen, but at the end of the day, if all of the content from the Red War campaign onwards was still in the game, then the game would be around 300 to 400 gigabyte, if not more. The mechanics in these raids vary from stand on this plate and guard it with your life to do this jumping puzzle where you yourself are taken. It's super cool, and the mechanics are generally pretty unique among each raid, with the core mechanic being similar to raids prior. Stand on a plate eventually turns into stand on a plate, kill a specific enemy to get a symbol, shoot that symbol and get a raid specific effect like being torn in Kingsfall or Operator in Deepstone. If you've never done a raid, do one. I recommend Vault of Glass because A, it's not that difficult, but it's not as easy as Root of Nightmares, and B, the final boss is mindless fun. Vex Mythoclast is a pretty good exotic too. It's not the PvP titan that it once was, but it is still a cool weapon nonetheless. Ah, yeah, PvP. My sworn enemy. Personally, I'm much more of a PvE guy, which might sound weird considering the main content on this channel is heavily focused on Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. Destiny 2 PvP just isn't fun for me because it's always the same 3 weapons in the meta that make matches feel awful. I'm so out of the loop with the meta that I don't even know what it is anymore. I mean, recently we had Heavy Metal where we got to fight in tanks and brigs, and that was actually pretty fun because it was wacky nonsense. Just like Scorched. But outside of game modes like that, yeah, I'm not really the biggest PvP fan. Yes, I got myself a Shire's Wrath because it's a good SMG all around, but I never really touched Trials after that because it's just not really my thing. I respect people that play it because it kind of reminds me of Titanfall with how movement based some of these matches can be, but I can't really talk about PvP more because I just don't tend to play it unless I have to for like a specific weapon or piece of armor that I want for transmog. I like playing dress up, it's fun. The only problem is it's costly. Destiny 2's main source of income is through the Eververse, the store where you get all your cosmetics for stuff like transmog and DLCs. Every week, new items get cycled into the Bright Dust store, which is the free way of earning cosmetics. But if you want to outright just buy an ornament for a weapon or piece of armor, you can buy silver and get it straight away without having to wait for it to cycle back into the store. You also use silver to buy the season pass, or episode if we're talking about this past year. I don't really know why they decided to change it because it was just a season. But anyway, what's a free-to-play game without a microtransaction storefront, huh? Yeah, you can earn free cosmetics, but A, Bright Engrams usually just give you stuff that you already have, or just absolute shit, like a legendary ghost shell. Yay. And B, most of the time the cosmetics in the Bright Dust store aren't exactly the best, so you'll end up waiting weeks and weeks for a single ornament that you actually want, and oh hey, the new DLC just dropped. But that just about does it for this video. No, I'm not talking about Gambit because it's Gambit. You can fuck off. The past 10 years have been super fun, and the Enter the Light and Dark saga was amazing. The first couple of weeks of the final shape were probably some of the best weeks that this community saw, because we were unearthing new secrets and lore tidbits and whatnot, all culminating in putting an end to the Witness. It was a bunch of fun. Sure, it had its ups and downs, here and there, almost dying at one point because there wasn't much to do before the release of Final Shape, and, you know, all of the layoffs, fuck you Pete Parsons, but we're in an alright spot at the minute. I can't wait to see what the Edge of Fate and Renegades have in store for us. Saying that, what is it with Bungie and edging? You know, there's so much edge. It's like it's their favourite word.